We will continue our discussion on modify comments, and in this part 13 we'll see a very interesting modify comments array. Array is for creating a series of objects or copying a series of objects in a specific pattern. We can see there are three types of array possible in AutoCAD. It is rectangular array, polar array, and path array. In rectangular array, the objects are created as columns and rows. You can see here this circle. This was the base circle which I used for creating this array. This circle is copied in 3 rows and 4 columns, specifying certain distance between these columns and certain distance between these rows. So this is rectangular array, and you can see here these rectangles are arranged in a circular pattern with some center somewhere here, and this is called polar array, or maybe you can call it as circular array if you want, but normally in AutoCAD it is called as polar array. So creating objects around a center in a circular pattern, that can be termed as polar array. Now the last type of array which is possible is path array. You can see I have created a polyline here, and along that polyline I have created, or I have copied, or a number of copies of this circle is made on this particular path, and this is called path array. Okay, so these are the three types of array possible in AutoCAD. In the initial versions of AutoCAD, we were having only 2 types of array, that is rectangular array and polar array, and later they have introduced this path array also. So creating array is relatively simple because AutoCAD had made a lot of improvements in the way in which the arrays are created, or the way in which we can give the input for giving for preparing array. So here to make these items clear, or to have a clear idea on the type of array, I will use the older version of the command initially, and then I will discuss how we can create array using the latest technique or latest method what AutoCAD has defined. Okay, so I'll do one thing. I'll just make a rectangle, say having position somewhere here, 600, 150. Yeah, 600, 150, and with a size, say 25, 50. Okay, so I have a rectangle something like this, which I'll make multiple copies of this one. Although I am creating an array here, I am using a different method to create the array here, just to show that. Now I have a circle. Just before that I will just change. Fine. Okay, so let us say that I am having a circle here. Yeah, and I want this circle at these points, so it will be like this will be row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. so at each of these points, and this height is 50 and this distance is 75. That is, the distance between the column will be 75 and the distance between the rows will be 50. So to create array, although the command for creating array is array itself, array. Now I'm using the older version of the command, and for using that older version of the command, you need to type minus first, array. This is the older version of array command. You'll understand what is the difference between the older version of array and the new version of array command. So just to make you understand about the different details what is required for creating array, I am using the older version first. So I am typing the command minus array. Okay, so AutoCAD will ask us to select the object first, as it being a modify command. So I am selecting the object which I want. Then to complete my object selection, press enter. Now you can see this in this older version of array, you will be getting only two array commands, rectangular and polar. As I discussed earlier, this path has been introduced, path array has been introduced later. So here we want the rectangular array because we want it in columns and rows. So I am selecting the option rectangular. Now see, it is asking me to enter the number of rows, how many rows I want. So this is 1 row, 2 row, 3 row and 4 row. So I need 4 rows, so I am typing 4. Then it will ask the number of columns. You can see the symbol here, that is these vertical things, these are termed as columns. So 1 column, 2 column, 3 column, 4 column. Okay, here I want 4 columns. That will ask the distance between the rows. Distance between the rows, what we have mentioned earlier here, is 50. Then it will be asking the distance between columns, it is 75. Okay, you can see that array has been created. So we require this type of data, this type of inputs for creating array, right? So now I'll remove all these items what we have created, right? And I will show you the new version of the array command, which is comparatively easy, and you can give all the inputs on here on the toolbar, so that your array will be created accordingly. Okay, so you can select the array from the toolbar here. See, if you click here, you can see the three different the commands for the three different array, or the toolbar button for the different array: rectangular array, polar array, polar array and path array. Alternatively, you can type array here, array. See, then when we select or when we type the command here, it will ask us to select the object first. So I am selecting the object, then when I press enter, now you can see all the three options are available here: rectangular array, path array and polar array. The difference between the earlier command I have typed and this command is that in the earlier command I have given a prefix, a minus sign, which indicates that the older version of array command has to be used. Now I am using the latest version of the array command, so for that one I am giving only the array commands, and here three options are available. So I am just clicking the rectangular array. Then you can see that an automatic the object is arrayed, or multiple copies of the object has been made in a rectangular manner, and we didn't give any input like the number of rows, number of columns, or the distance between the rows or distance between the columns. AutoCAD has itself given a certain type of array, and this array we can modify, or we can give the proper distance and other things by inputting the details here on the top. See, here you can see from here it is a rectangular array, that is the type of the array is rectangular, and here it is given the number of columns. See, number of columns here, 1 2 3 4 columns are there. Suppose if you want, say, 8 columns, you can just increase the number as 8 here. So the number of columns has been increased. If then you can give the distance between columns, it is 35. Here I will make it 40. Okay, so when I input that 40 and when I click somewhere else, you can see that this has been changed. So by changing the number of columns here and the distance between the columns, you can arrange it accordingly. Or else if you want to give the total distance, say I want it for a total distance of 300, then you can see I am getting 8 items in a distance of 300, and the distance between the items has been taken, calculated accordingly, and that has been taken. Okay, so I don't want that one. I'll make it 40 itself. So 40, maybe number of items I'll make it to 6, right? After entering 6, then if you have to go and click somewhere else so that the command will be completed. Now similarly you can change the number of rows by changing the values here. I will make the number of rows as 5 and distance between rows as say 50. Fine. Now this is about this changing rows in fact. Now so these columns we have seen, these rows we have seen, and now we can see one more a couple of more details here. This is level. Level means how many number of this array we want in the z direction. See, at present we are interested only in 2 dimension, that is x and y. In x direction we will be getting the rows like 1 row, 2 row, 3 row, 4 and 5 rows, and in y direction we are getting the columns. And similarly one above the other we can keep the level, so that we will not be using it when we are preparing the 2D drawing. But I'll just show you. Suppose if I create 5 levels and distance between levels being say 50, although you will not see any difference in this 2D drawing here. See, if I change the view to perspective view, and if you see, just rotate it slightly, see, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 levels, that is in z direction. Normally for preparing 3D drawing you can use these levels in fact. Otherwise we are okay with the 2-dimensional version, where we will not be using this level. So I'll change level to 1, and not distance and other things are required. So these are this is the way how we can create array, and it is relatively very easy. Like if you use this the new comment, and also you can see there are a couple of other items also here: edit, source, replace and other things. Okay, which we will discuss later once we are familiar. So now see, if you select the array, automatically this top portion will be or the toolbar will be changing, wherein we can change the details related to the array, and we can change the array accordingly. And also you can notice that if you select the array, all the objects are selected together, mentioning that it is a single object. Okay, so or you can say it becomes a single entity, and you cannot edit a portion or one piece, or if you want, if you cannot delete one object from this array, or if you use trim or any other editing command, it may not be possible to do that. And that is because here we have made this array as associative. That means the array always will be held together. So while making array itself, we can make that associate property changed, so that the array will not be associative, so that individual objects can be edited separately. Now if you want to, after creating the array, if you want to split it into individual objects, then you can use another modify command, which is explode. And this explode command can be used for various other options also, like if you have created a polyline and if you want to split it into individual components, then also you can use this explode. The name explode itself says that it will be exploding it into individual objects. So various purpose we can use this explode command, but right now we'll restrain our discussion just to array. So now if you see this, if you select this any object in this array, the entire object will be the entire array will be selected, and if you delete, the entire array will be deleted. So I'm doing an undo, Control Z. Okay, so suppose if you want to delete only one particular object or one particular circle from this array, then first you need to explode that one. So for exploding that, you can select the object first and click explode, or you can click explode first, then select the object you want to explode. Now you can see every item here is individually selected, or if you want a particular object to be removed, you can delete that particular object. So this is about a rectangular array, and yes, in this this type of array. Okay, also for changing the distance and the distance between the rows and distance between the columns, we have another option also. So I will this time I will have a small rectangle here, and I'll have this rectangular array from here. So when I select the object and press enter, automatically it has created this one. And when you see that when we initiate this array command, you can see here this property. This is the property which I was talking earlier, associative. So if this is on by default, so if you don't want your output to be associative, that is a single object, you can uncheck this one, so which will make this array unassociative once you create this one, meaning all the individual component will be separate. Okay, now here you can see a lot of green marks here, which we normally call as grips or points, and this also has got certain meaning here in the case of array. Suppose if you come and click on this triangle here, see, you can see that on the top it is written as column is equal to 4. If you want to increase the number of columns, you can come click here and move your mouse this side, or if you want to decrease the number of columns, you can use this method also. Okay, so now I have changed the number of, okay, I'll show it again. See, now it is 1 2 3 4 5 columns. I'm just increasing it. Okay, I have increased the number of columns. Similarly, by clicking here, you can increase the number of rows, right? Or clicking here, you can change the number of columns and number of rows together, right? So by grip editing or using these grips also, you can change the number of columns and number of rows by clicking this one to increase or decrease the number of rows, by editing this one for changing the number of columns, and by editing this one, you can increase the number of columns or rows together. And if you want to change the distance between the columns or rows, you can use these two triangles. So I'm going to click on this one. See, now you can see that the distance between the columns is changed. Similarly, if we click on this one and make it red, and if I move my mouse, you can see that the distance between the columns, the distance between the rows is changed. So okay, now I will close the array, and you can see that the objects here are separate objects because I have unchecked the associativity property, so that all the objects are separate. So this is about rectangular array. Similarly, you can see polar array also. Polar array also has got different options like this. So to show it in a better way, I'll create a circle first. Then I'll have some objects to be arrayed, maybe a small rectangle. So I want to have this rectangle arrayed with the center as center of this circle. So here I'm using this polar array command. Then I'm selecting the object which I want to array. Then it will ask me to specify the center. Okay, center, I'm just selecting the center of the circle. Now you can see the number of items has been created. Here the same thing we have. If you want to change the number of items, here you can change the number of items, and if you want to the rows are also possible here, but we are not discussing about rows or levels here. And you can see that associate property you can make on or off. And also we have a couple of other options here, that is rotate the items. See here you can see when I arrayed or copied this rectangle, it is rotated with respect to this particular center. See what happens if it is not rotating. See, if it is not rotating, you can see that the item is not rotated, it is kept as such, right? So if you keep this rotate property on, or if you make this rotate property, then the items will be rotated when it is copied. Okay, so according to your requirement, you can make this rotate on or off, or you can select that option. Similarly, you have a direction option. See, at present the direction is as usual and anti-clockwise, and if you want to make the direction clockwise, you can click here, so that the direction is, this direction is important if you are not filling the array throughout your anchor, throughout your 360 degree. See, here we have an option here. Suppose if you want all these items for say 180 degree, that is half of these things, you can use the option here. See, we can see only half portion of the circle, that is 180 degree. The objects has been created, and here if you change the direction, you can see that those items are the lower half of the circle. So like this you can change various parameters related to array, that is polar array. Now we will talk about circular we'll talk about path array. For that I'm using the same one which I have created earlier. I will have a small circle set 1 point, say I will have it here. I will take the path array, then I will select the object and press enter, then select the path. You can see it has been created in this one. So here also you can change, you cannot change the number of items, but you can change the distance between items. Say I'll make it a little bit more, like say 45, so that distance has been increased to 45. And all the other items also you can change here. You can try various options here, and if you didn't understand any of these options in polar array or path array, you can comment here, or you can start discussions in the discussion box. So we'll look into that one. So these are the 3 types of arrays which we can create in AutoCAD, and that concludes this discussion on array. So thank you. We'll meet with a couple of other editing comments in the next session. Thank you.